what everyone's spending, right? They're Indeed are a billion-dollar company. They're on the stock exchange. They exist to make money, and one organization can spend a reasonable amount, but 10, 20, 30 spends more. What we want to do is bring that knowledge together here today on this webinar so that we can get the most out of Indeed. They have loads of ways of getting the most out of us, getting us to spend more money. We want to get the most out of them. This is a roundtable format. There are 20 of us on this call, so pretty big table. As Patrick said, just click on the bottom and click on reactions and then raise hand so that we will know to unmute you, and we can bring you on to share what you know, or just put it in the chat, whatever's easier for you. What you can talk about, what we'd love you to mention is some tips you have for increasing candidate flow, for maximizing your budget, for expanding the reach of ads, sourcing using resumes, or anything else which you think would be useful for other healthcare recruiters. Because I know often you're in your own organization, there's not a lot of communities, Facebook groups, group chats out there for healthcare recruiters from different areas. We want to bring you all together today and share some knowledge. So just to warm up while we're waiting for you to raise your hands, we made a post in a group called Recruiters Online, and I asked how can people get the most out of Indeed. We've got some tips here that we came across. So firstly, you can do the Crystal, could you mute yourself, please? Wow.
You're on mute.
Sorry, thanks for telling me. What I was saying was, again, you can see on the screen, just Lace is recommending that you do it in multiple cities. It doesn't cost any extra, which is great, bang for your buck. Second, we have Christy Lynn Andrews contributed here, and she said she refreshes her jobs every 14 days with 0 issues. And that's something that we found was useful. Like if you have a job up for a month, for example, that appears differently to candidates than if you have it up within the last week. It has a new tag if it's in the last week, and the nurses I've spoken to are telling me that they want to see the new jobs, that they're more likely to apply to those because they know that that position is a bit more, how do I say this? It's not as difficult to fill. So if a position is up there for an age, that shows the nurses that it's difficult to fill that position. And they don't want to work in facilities that really struggle to get staff, which is understandable. So that's some warm-ups. We'd love to throw it open to what you think. So we showed you how you can click on the bottom and click on reactions. Patrick's raised his hand, so I'll let you jump in, Patrick, first, or anybody else. So we're just looking, waiting for you to do the reaction. You can put it in the chat as well. And this way, everyone can really just share. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, so we're all sort of looking at each other. Feel free to turn your camera on and just sort of interact. Patrick, I'm going to unmute you here because there you go.
Yeah. I'm back. Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone to raise their hand. So you click on the reactions button at the bottom and then raise your hand or lower your hand if you change your mind. And of course, any questions in the chat as well. So again, we know you have lots of good feedback and good experiences, so please share those with us. Sorry for the technical problems right at the beginning there.
Like, I don't really want there to be dead air on this call, so I can talk about our experiences while we wait. But yeah, like this call is really about the recruiters here. So we would love you to just share what you know and provide value to everybody else. In terms of whenever we refresh the jobs, Rick, I saw you asked the question. If we find what works best is editing the headline of the job and the description that's underneath in the job ad, and that acts as a refresh, so that whenever the nurse is doing the search in that area, they will see a different headline and they will read the ad differently rather than it coming up as the same. So it stops that repetition. And this is something we do on social media. You can follow someone across the internet, and on Indeed, if they're seeing the headline with the pay, headline with the benefits, headline with something with PTO, it makes it different each time, and it makes it more entertaining and interesting. So that's a good one. I saw, if you have any follow-up questions, again, just put them in the chat, we can address them. I see Cara is raising her hand. So Cara, do you just want to unmute yourself? I've enabled you to unmute yourself, and you can share what you've come across. I know, so just to introduce Cara. Cara is Wesley Enhanced Living, which is a senior living organization in Philadelphia. Cara, I've enabled you to unmute yourself. You just need to click the button and you can speak. If you don't do that, I'll just assume you did it by mistake. But
no, I'm good now. I was trying to click it. It wasn't letting me unmute. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Yeah, so I saw some of the comments come through, and I did just want to, and it may be easier for you to clarify, Adam. So when you're refreshing, are you talking about refreshing them on our career site so other job boards, including Indeed, will be able to pull the roles? Because I've heard some, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to get into the beginning. I missed the first, I don't know, 6 minutes because I was sitting in a waiting room or something. Do you recommend unposting the roles for like 24 hours so it will come through, with a whole new scrape to show as a new position? Or are you recommending that you edit the job title, like you had mentioned? What is the best way to make sure we are refreshing? Because we are seeing some of our positions that have been open over 30 days that are now on page, I don't know, 15 or something. How would you recommend best making sure that those positions look new?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So the best way to make it look new is to post it as a new position, so it comes under that new script with a different headline and description in it. So you don't have to reinvent everything. You don't have to write an entirely new job ad, but you do have to change things about so that it recognizes it as different. So I would do a new position as a new script, and making this work is all about doing the things that are more effort for us and are a bit more uncomfortable. So obviously you would like to just change a couple of things in your own system, and then wow, it's a new ad, but you do need to go to that extra step and make it as a new position. Is that helpful? I'm gonna say, yeah, you can unmute yourself, Cara, but yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Also, like, we find that when you think of Indeed, and I think the auto posting feature is great, and obviously that's saving everybody time. But Indeed is the replacement to the newspaper ad for jobs. It used to be, if you want to hire someone, you had to put an advert in the newspaper. Indeed really took over that in the first decade of the 2000s. But I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten that you still need to be advertising and selling like you would if you were in a newspaper ad. So whenever you post on Indeed, we have found that the best performing job ads are actual advertisements that we have written that aren't a description, that sell the position, and that are engaging and interesting. Otherwise, it's just going to be a wall of similar content for the nurses looking at it. So it's hard to stand out already when there's so many options, but it's even harder whenever every single advertisement looks the same. I hope that makes sense. If you're in a difficult situation, it's really important to do something different because everyone else is facing the same struggles. Our best performing ads are ads that we've created ourselves, that we've written, that aren't a job description, but I've actually got sort of engaging content which sells the position, and then that we post ourselves in the employer section of Indeed. I'll read out an example for you just so you can get a feel of it. So in the first line of this, we have said, let me show you. Yeah, so in the first line we said, RNs in Montgomery, do you want a better work-life balance, better pay, and a more flexible schedule? So you can see like we're not saying there's a nurse position in Montgomery. What we're saying is like, is this what you want? Is this something that would be an improvement for you? And that keeps the person reading down the lines, and that keeps them engaged and interested. So yeah, definitely we find that if you're posting ads that you've written and which aren't job descriptions, there's a very clear distinction, then you're going to get better results. I'm going to invite Rick Silva to jump in. Rick, please unmute yourself and let us know what you know.
Yeah, I just had a question. Have you noticed any difference between like campaign codes that get scraped from career sites versus Indeed hosted?
Like we found Indeed hosted performs better. So whenever we post them ourselves, they perform better. And I don't know if it's because of the technicalities behind it. For me, it's more because of what we actually are able to say in the ads, and because we're custom writing them, because we're able to refresh them more often, then that they just stand out. Because if you imagine 10 organizations are pumping job descriptions onto the board, and then there's one that is custom writing their ads in a way that really sells the position, that's going to stand out. Have you seen any difference in what you're doing?
Well, yeah. So from about mid-April to mid-May, I was using a campaign code, and we custom write our job ads even on our career site. And in mid-May, I switched over to hosted to kind of run a test. And in about the same time period from mid-May to present, I've got about a 200% increase going off of Indeed hosted. And so I just didn't know if anybody else had kind of ever witnessed that, or if it was just like an anomaly, with the candidate economy in April. I don't know if it was systemic or if it was an anomaly. So I'm seeing better results on Indeed hosted.
Yeah, I would concur with that. So yeah, I think that's something that's worth, that's quite a big jump. That's quite a good increase. Joe Rosso saying Indeed hosted as well. So everyone on this call look into Indeed hosted. Rick, maybe could you explain to people who don't have as much experience of Indeed hosted what that looks like from like an in-house perspective? Like what steps do they need to do differently?
Yeah, so again, we have a campaign code that we tagged on all of our jobs when we post them through our ATS. Indeed will go through, scrape the campaign code from our job board, and it'll push it to Indeed on a sponsor status. And it started to really dry up over the last few months. And then, so in about, on May 11th, I took that campaign code off my career site and went directly to Indeed and posted the exact same job, the exact same verbiage directly through Indeed. And I went from mid-April to mid-May, got 11 nurses. And from mid-May to mid-June, I've gotten over 30. So it was just, that's not nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a massive increase. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like that's the way to go. I mean, definitely. If anybody else has experience with that, I see Erica Valentine says some of their building get better results from Indeed hosted. And this is like something that Indeed isn't going to send you all an email about. It's not going to say get more candidates for less money using Indeed hosted necessarily. Like, this is stuff that's you should be trying out yourself. So really appreciate you share that, Rick. So I've again, here's some more ideas if you want to share anything around that. Be really useful, and we're going to make some notes here, and by the end we'll summarize everything and make it into a nice little document that you can all use next time you go on Indeed. More things we saw in our group post was if you sponsor $5 a day, Jim said, you get the benefits without draining your budget. And we sponsor all our jobs at least 5 a day. Just to, I think if you can't afford $5 a day, that's a real issue. With the $5 a day, you're able to take advantage of a lot more features, and it's really worth the investment. And it seems whenever we do free postings, they just don't do as well. And it's facts. Like if you spend more money, you'll get better results. And with Indeed, they've set that limit where you need to spend 5 a day. If you do, then you can take advantage of more features. Also, Robin put an interesting point in here where she's talking about the email that is sent to the candidate and putting more thought into it and constructing an email that is actually interesting and makes them want to engage, gets better results. So I think it is a lot about being thoughtful about what you're posting and making sure that the content in it is engaging to that candidate. So for example, instead of just resending them a job description or an interview invite, talking about something in their application. So if they 2 years ago worked in a senior living facility down the road, like bring that up and say, how was it? I've heard great things about there. And really try and lead into a conversation with the nurse instead of just saying, oh, you popped up and applied for my job. When are we going to hire you? Like after they've applied, that isn't the end of the journey. There's a lot more steps that they need to take before they're willing to accept your offer and start working to care for the people that your organization cares for. And you always need to be selling the position to them at each step of the journey. If anybody else has any comments on that or wants to add to it, feel free to just post it in the chat or raise your hand. I want to see Matt Craven says, the more you relate to the candidate at a personal level, the more likely they are to respond. So yeah, absolutely. There's no bachelor's degree to be a healthcare recruiter, and every organization trains their people differently. I know that there's lots of principles that are so easy to miss because you're just focused on filling that next position, and it's just in front of you and you need to do it, and you end up just not innovating and following what you think everyone else is doing. And like Matt says, you need to engage with that candidate and actually make them feel worthwhile and speak to them on the same level, and not make it a conversation of qualification where you're trying to make sure, do they meet the description? They're trying to make sure, do you meet what they want? You need to engage them and have an actual conversation on any platform, not just Indeed. And Laura said, what do you feel about Indeed hiring events? I would love anybody else to jump in here who has done an Indeed hiring event. From our experience, so we were approached by one of our clients who is a hospital in Toronto. They said, this is what Indeed's offering. Obviously, it's going to get traffic because it's Indeed. Laura said the prices skyrocketed. What that hospital said to us was, we don't feel ready to handle this this entire event by ourselves, and we feel that Indeed are going to send us candidates, charge us the money, and drive off into the sunset. What we did for them was we put together like something that was much more hands-on and supported them. And if you go on our YouTube, just Applichat YouTube, you can watch a webinar that we did about hiring events. And from the Indeed hiring events, I think they kind of lack the support that an in-house team need to make a success, like the tech setup, calling no-shows, making sure people show up. I think because Indeed's like a really a SaaS platform, so software platform, rather than an agency with people who are phoning people on your behalf or actually communicating with you on calls, like they kind of miss that. So you can watch our webinar on it. And there's some really good points raised there. I want to really lead into if anybody has experience on using a resume database, because I've had some really interesting conversations and results relating to that. What we've seen is a really low response rate in the resume requests, the resume outreach that we're doing on Indeed. So whenever we're reaching out to people on Indeed, maybe 10% would respond. And that's us as an agency. Like, we have clients in different cities. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like if you're in one city. You would rip through that database in no time. What's really interesting, and what we've started to do, is taking the names from that resume database and then sourcing them from elsewhere. So we have the paid subscription. I think it was $100 for 30 contacts. And that lets us see the names of the people who have uploaded their resumes. What we do is we get their names, and then we find them. We can find them on LinkedIn, so number one. We can find them on Facebook, number two, or we can use a data sourcing site to get their phone number or email. Put some data sourcing sites in here. So the principle of this is, these nurses exist. They're not responding to us on Indeed. Where else can we get them to respond to us? Coming from the agency world, that's something that we really want to see in-house people do more of, that like a tenacious sourcing, where you don't just put an ad up and wait for them to come to you. You have to go out and find them. That's how agencies are generally, well, that's how they're in existence, because there's that gap where in-house recruiters don't have the time or the resources or ability to go out and do that kind of sourcing. Billion-dollar healthcare staffing industry. The major gap, in my opinion, is that sourcing piece, where you know what your organization needs and you know what you want, but you just can't source the candidates. Agencies know how to do it better. And one of the techniques that we're using and others are using is going on Indeed's resume database, looking through the names, and then searching for those people on Facebook, LinkedIn, or data sourcing sites. On Facebook, all you do is look at the name and then also search their city or search their employer, find them, add them on Facebook. So it's about using that database in ways that other people aren't doing, in creative ways, and ways that will get you an end result. If you're thinking of doing that, which I recommend you do, make your profile, well, it doesn't have to be like completely business oriented like mine is, but make it where it says where you work. It says a little bit more about you, so it's obvious that you're working in a healthcare organization and that you're a recruiter. We don't want to have like a year-long conversation, try and make their friend and try and make friends with them and then say, oh yeah, I'm a recruiter, do you want a job? It should be explicit and obvious what you're here to do, why you're sending them a message, what value you can actually provide to them. Matt, if you want to unmute yourself, we'd love to hear what you want to say. You've posted in the messaging that postings work less in direct contact with candidates. Good nurses not looking, they need to be found engaged. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. You know, the best candidates are in the market, not on the market, and there's a reason for that. If they were on the market, they're either looking for a change or they're finding it difficult to get a position. Generally, if they're on the market, they're looking for a job. If they're in the market, you know, they're satisfied, their employer's paying them well to stay there, and those are the types of people that you want to speak to. So yeah, that passive candidate market is so strong. Matt, I saw you're unable to unmute. I'm going to try and make that possible. There you go. Can you speak?
I can. Hey, Adam, thanks for unmuting me. And I've just been putting stuff in there as you've been chatting. So thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I've been recruiting for way too many years, but I mean, I will tell you on nursing, on nursing, really, it is truly about building those relationships as much as the marketing and the postings. I see those really as branding your organization and getting that awareness of who your organization is so people can search and find those people. But then, you know, on the other side of it, like I said before, you know, those direct messages, those intimate conversations that you can try to get is ultimately where you're going to attract those nurses right there, because nurses go into a field where they care for people and they like those interactions with people. And so how you get people to respond is actually building those relationships and building those interactions. So that's all I'm gonna add.
Can I ask what sort of organization are you recruiting for? Like, is it, yeah, what sort of organizations?
What is my organization? I'm sorry. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm with Peace Health. We are in the Pacific Northwest. We're a non-for-profit organization with 10 different hospitals.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Awesome.
Louis says you're a genius. I don't know if you work together or if he's just.
Well, he is my boss, so you know what? He's got to say something nice about me.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for sharing. I'm curious to know, Matt or Louis, like, when you say building those relationships, where are you actually starting that conversation? So like, where are you getting their contact info from? Are they filling it in on Indeed, or they going to your website, or how do you actually begin that journey?
I mean, you use all avenues. I mean, Indeed is a great resource to find talent, but I mean, you're using LinkedIn, you're using you're using the lists out there that are available from different states to get names, and then you do your searches on Boolean search strings and lots of different methodologies. You find out who the hospitals are in your area and figure out what their email monikers are, and then you start messaging directly. And it's a little bit more difficult to do that into your organization just for the fact that, these nurses don't typically, some organizations don't give nurses email addresses, plus it's disrupting them, and you gotta be respectful. They're working and caring for nurses, they're caring for patients, so you have to be respectful of how you message them within their organization as well. So it's just really taking a multi-pronged approach and attracting, finding that way that you can get them to reply back. And again, it is really about that personal touch. A lot of my messages, I start out with something that is personal, so that way it may be able to relate to them. I look in their profile, see that they like the outdoors. I say, hey, I did a hike last week, and I did that actually in one of my messaging last week, and I got like 15 people reply back. So it is really, again, there's so much emphasis on everybody wanting to do mass messaging and impersonal reach outs, but we're talking again about nurses that really want to feel like you can connect with them, and then that's how they will reply back to you and respond back to you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna note this down for everyone, because I think that's something that people in recruitment and talent acquisition actually can relate to nurses on. So if you're in talent acquisition, you're out there to help people get better opportunities, and you're really in the business of working with people. Nursing is the same. They're about helping people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to add to what you said, like, we do interviews with nurses and we ask them, what do you want to see from recruiters? And they always tell us, be transparent and be authentic, and actually speak to me like a human, not someone who can fill a rec. What you said definitely rings true from what we're hearing. It sounds like that's something that would help bring referrals and spread the name of the organization amongst the nursing community.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is that, but I think in another level to add to that, another one, be the hog of all the time here in chatting. Love to hear what other people have to say, but business acumen is huge in any recruiting role. I mean, we as recruiters, in most cases, aren't nurses, and so it's our job to understand what nurses do and what each of the departments do as well, and not just say I have a nursing opportunity, because there are a lot of nurse recruiters out there that may not necessarily have that acumen of understanding what a critical care nurse does and how they differ from an emergency room nurse or an OR nurse, and what scrub and circulating is. And so, that's another thing is nurses can see right through a recruiter that doesn't know what they're talking about. And if you're a recruiter and you try to blow smoke over to try to convince them that you think you know what you're talking about, they're going to catch on to that very quickly and probably end a conversation. So as much as that personal interaction and connection is, I mean, it is really about understanding what you're recruiting for too. And that takes some time, and it takes a lot of time to be able to do that. And that's why, sometimes you see recruiters as former RNs, but then on that side, you don't see sometimes those RNs that are recruiters, not all, because I don't want to have anybody on the call here if they're RN and they're nurse recruiting. But then also there are some of those nurses have the great ability to talk about the department, but maybe they don't have that sales pitch that can close the deal to ultimately get that nurse interested in an opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds like something that really needs to be explained and trained into people. Because the recruiters that we've met, there is the recruiter who's really good at speaking to people, but again, isn't good at selling. There is such a huge sales component to recruiting that people don't realize.
Yeah. Laura, if I can jump in one more time, then I'll
yeah,
mute.
sure. If anybody else wants to jump in, raise their hand, but until somebody else does.
No, not big. I know that Laura Hankins mentioned about they change for dollar increases. I think that they also look for an organization that takes care of them as well. I mean, money is always going to be an attractor, but I mean, I think if we treat our people, our caregivers, our nurses well, that dollar may not necessarily be important, because at the end of the day, if they don't think the grass is going to be greener on the other side and they can make more money, guess what? They may leave for that dollar, but they may return very quickly to where they came from because they like the environment better. And so I think culture is important. And I mean, I think money, you have to be competitive in the market. If you're not competitive, then you're not going to be able to retain people. But you really have to have that culture that really ingrained in your organization to get them to want to stay. And that's more than just recruiting. That is really the whole organization development and so on and stuff like that. So it's a bigger picture for sure.
Yeah. I hope everyone's taking notes. We're recording this so you can listen to what Matt's sharing after. But thanks so much, Matt, for sharing that. Louis was right. You did know what you're talking about. I want to bring in Laura here. Laura Hankins.
Hi. So kind of, echoing what Matt had to share, recruiting is sales. We spend more time of our lives as recruiters, nurses, clinicians, whatever the case is, at work. And I think that, the sales aspect can only go so far. You have criteria, salary ranges, commute, all of those things come into the play, but you might find a candidate that is just in love with the organization as a whole and willing to kind of overcome those barriers. So when we think about sourcing, that is straight sales, and the conversion rate isn't the same as someone who intentionally applied to the position. So, I just wanted to echo that off you, Matt, is that, people forget that recruiting is sales, and it's a big, big purchase, and so to speak, that you would make. So, I think it's an interesting process, being in the market that we are, but there's a lot of opportunity for candidates to choose from. And if you can have something that just sets you off a little bit different, like talking about a hike, talking about a fun vacation, or, whatever the case is, that's really going to build that relationship with the candidate.
I think, Laura, like what you've shown is if you're not selling, so if there's people on this call who aren't, in that mindset where I need to kind of close this deal and build a relationship to do that, then there's going to be someone like Laura in the next hospital who has that mentality and is doing it and will pick your eyes out to get that candidate. Like this shortage is only going to get worse and it's only going to get more kind of competitive, right, Laura?
Yeah, it's a really competitive market. And I said this in the chat. Nurses will literally leave for $1, but come back when they realize it's not what it's cracked up to be. And, it's a big change, changing a job. And sometimes it's not worth $1 because maybe that organization doesn't make as large of an impact. Maybe you don't have a good cultural fit with the team you're working with. But yeah, I think that's my perspective on hiring nurses in this crazy market.
Can I just ask, so you say it's not all about the dollar. Whenever you are selling your position, so to speak, what is the hierarchy? Like, do you start with culture and then work your way down into the pay, or what are you telling them about first?
So I work in a high growth organization currently. So room for advancement, room to make a difference, a position that is really bigger than yourself. So, for us, it brings nurses in at a totally different level. You're still seeing patients, but you're able to provide, case management versus strictly medications, things like that. So I would say focus on the growth and then move from there to pay, because chances are, if you're looking for another role, you're not happy in your role now. So what is it that makes you happy?
Yeah. So a bit of discovery there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fit is everything, because, I really love the passive candidate, because it's kind of like that light bulb moment where things click and everything comes together for them.
Yeah. I want to I want to share with you all a little bit of a formula for having that sort of conversation. That it's like a sort of sales thing that we would use. And firstly, you want to discover what their needs are, what their problems are. So why are you looking for a new position? What would your ideal position look like? Why are you here speaking to us? So in that discovery, you're learning what makes them tick and what they're actually out for. So some people don't just want money. And if you say, we have a 5K sign-on bonus, like it doesn't resonate with them. So you need to do that discovery first and learn what they want. And then you have some ammunition to present yourself as the solution. So you can draw upon the parts of your culture, of your benefits package, of your organization, of the team that would directly appeal to them. That's pretty much it. That's how the best sales people work. They learn what makes the person that they're trying to get on board tick, what's important to them, and then they position their service, or in the recruiting context, their job, as the answer to that. Rick Silva says, I've invested heavily over the last year in recruitment marketing. Between that, the personal relationships and employee referrals, we've had a lot of success. Yeah, I think like if we're to zoom out from that, Rick, it comes down to focusing not just on filling the next recs, but having an actual strategy that puts you out there on multiple channels, not just Indeed. And I think the fact that this conversation has moved away from Indeed shows that it's there to use. There are tips to use it, but it shouldn't just be the only thing that you're using. You should be doing referrals and building relationships with the candidate market that's out there. If anybody else wants to contribute something on anything about healthcare recruiting, because I know we've kind of moved away from Indeed, feel free to just post in the chat if you want to speak, or raise your hand if you do want to speak, and we can hear you. I'm really grateful for everyone that has been speaking today, and I would encourage you all to come into our Facebook group and follow up these conversations and really just network with people who are in the same situation, because it is so valuable to not just be stuck in your own zone, but to be aware of the opportunities and the colleagues out there who are going through the same thing and who are there to help you. So we're drawn to the close of our 45 minutes, but we're going to just stay on and have more conversations if anybody would like to. Just again, put in the chat and we can unmute you. But thanks everybody for coming. And again, we'd really love to continue the chat in our group. I'll put the link in there. And I wish you all the best. I think that the takeaways from this are, I'll go over our Indeed stuff first. So first of all, you can post the same job in multiple locations for the same price. Number two, refresh your job. So massive one, doing it like on Indeed's like on their platform instead of outside will get you better results. We've heard from a couple of people who are doing much better by just doing that little change, and also refreshing those jobs so that it's not languishing at the bottom and it's not an old job that nurses think nobody wants to apply to, but it's a job that has that new tag, which has a different headline than before, and which actually sells the position. So isn't just pay, benefits, blah, 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 but it's provoking them to want to take action and asking them tough questions that really sells them on the position. Then we talked about sponsoring is better than free. And if you can't do $5 a day, you really need to have some conversations about budget with whoever decides that. Finally, think about the content that you send. Make sure you put some thought into it. Like Matt was saying earlier, it's all about relationships, and you need to be in this mindset that I'm trying to sell this person, not a product, not a service, but I'm trying to get them to change where they spend most of their waking hours during the week, where they spend time instead of, with their kids. That's a really huge thing, and you really have to acknowledge that and sell the position. If you don't, there's going to be people like Lauren in the hypergrowth organization down the road who will absolutely sell that nurse and do a good job of it. So we're going to send out the recording of this and just a little summary of what the audience members have shared. Thanks everybody for coming. Patrick and I are going to stay if anybody would like a more in-depth conversation about what we do, or if you want to talk about some of your challenges as regards to nurse recruitment, feel free. But until then, we'll be doing another webinar next week on finding more nurses. So look out for an invite to that. Look out for it on our Facebook group or our LinkedIn page, and it'd be great to see you all there. So thanks everybody for coming. And as I mentioned, Patrick and I will stay till the end if anybody wants to have a chat. Cheers. So I'm just going to stop my video and mute myself, so I'm not trying to fill dead air with ramblings. Although I could do that for hours, I'm not gonna. Thanks everybody for coming, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Hey, Adam.
Hey there, Cara. Do you want to chat? We've got a few people on the call still. Do you want to chat like privately or in the...
Yeah, I just wanted clarification. I was trying to unmute again because I muted myself just so I could hear you clearly and not have any background. But anyway, so currently with Indeed, we are sending them our positions that are priority roles, and they are sponsoring them for us. And by doing it that way, candidates are automatically coming into our ATS. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. If we manually go in and open the recs on Indeed, are you saying that would be more effective than what we're doing?
I think you would get more candidates for the same budget, but you need to think about the effort of that would require as well. So we were like manually putting them in, so we don't have that integrated process. But if you have, some director positions or nursing roles that you need to fill, I would advise you to test it out.
Yeah, we've had more success doing that in the past, but it's weird, just like a weird time right now. I do feel like we might get fewer. I just feel like in a shorter period of time, we just did one, we got maybe 11 people applied over like the first 3 days, and then it started to die off. And even when we won't sponsor it, like we'll just manually go on and put it and just, let it go for a couple of days and just see if we get anybody automatically, because we're at the top of the list now, and then we'll sponsor it if we don't get anybody. But I think that 11 was actually without sponsoring it. So,
wow.
Yeah, okay. No, so I think it's just your placement, right? So I just was curious, just because we have a lot of like duplicate roles. I have like 5 3 to 11 full-time openings at one community right now for CNAs. You know, the nurses, we have a few openings, but not quite as many. So I was just curious if you're seeing that, you know, we can have the same success for that level as well.
Yeah, but it sounds like what you did worked. Why, like, my thought is, if I can get 1, why can't I get 10?
Right.
Look, I think you need to identify what's stopping you from scaling that method.
Mm-hmm.
And then tackling whatever's stopping you, because if you're onto something there, it's best to pursue it and not be like, you know, oh, I think this would stop, I think my recruiter wouldn't buy in. That doesn't matter. Like, you need nurses, you need to make hires, so that's what you're there to do. You kind of need to push that through by any means possible.
Yeah, and I was curious, are you on your platform, if we were to host an event through you, are you utilizing Indeed, like advertising, or that's what one of my other questions were.
So whenever we do our events, we just do them on social media and phone apps and websites, and that's because, like, the offer of an event is sufficiently powerful to that passive candidate market that we don't need to go on Indeed and do like to the active market. If we're doing like a job event to the active market, you know, it's okay, but they're looking to apply to a job, so why not just advertise jobs to them? With the passive market, they want to speak to you and learn more about what you do, so we're following through with just that. You know, book 15-minute instant interview with us. It's quick, it's easy, qualify yourself here, and then that's much more resonant with them.
Absolutely. And are you using just Facebook and Instagram, or was it just
Yeah,
Facebook?
so whenever we do the ads in the past, we've expanded it. So Facebook and Instagram, yes, but we're using like platform that can go into news sites and mobile applications. So imagine you're on like Candy Crush, and at the top it pops up a little advertisement.
Right.
And then also in our own database that we've built up, and our own sourcing methods. So it's very multi-channel these days.
Yeah,
which is
okay.
important.
I couldn't remember, because we may get to a point where we want to try that. We had just tried to do an event through Indeed. And I mean, we had a few, you know, we had people RSVP, but like very few showed up. And I mean, we did get hires, but you know, it's not quite where we need to be. And we've, we've had multiple conversations. We've done so many different things. So, and we have lists upon lists upon lists, you know, and so we're trying to do like re-engagement, you know, but I think everyone's just so sick of people reaching out to them, you know, right now.
Yeah.
So it's trying to be creative and do a different approach.
Yeah. Why do you think? Okay, so that they didn't show up to the event, right?
Yeah, you know, they RSVP'd through the Indeed event, and then they just didn't show up. So
did you like call them before?
So Indeed texts them, like they message them. So I actually, you know what, I think I did. I'm trying to remember, because trying to remember if I texted them.
Just while you think about that, we've on this call we spoke about like being personal. So whenever we would do, we would give them a phone call, send them a personalized text, send them an email, send them a calendar invite multiple times, and make it as if like if they aren't going to show up, then they feel like they have to tell someone, because a human is expecting them to, and the human is reaching out to them, and a human is excited to meet them. It's very easy to no show on a robot, which is what they were probably being sent, like the auto reminder, this is your thing, this is where it is, etc., etc. It's much easier to no show to a robot.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, that's a good point, to send them a calendar invite, for the time that they selected, so it's on there, and then to send them, personalized email letting them know why we're interested. It's just difficult because we don't have any information on these people, right? We don't have their resume. We just have like their phone number and their email address. So it's not even like we can pull certain things like, oh my gosh, you know, we have a lot of people that, you know, came here from there, or, you know, you have great experience. Like we have no idea, right? So just like, oh, you know, thank you so much for registering. We're looking forward to meeting you. And then, you know, maybe tell them a little bit more about the director of nursing that they'll be meeting with. And I mean, we've attached links to like different pages on our website that, you know, might be interesting to them, and, you know, about our programs, and, you know, just to kind of get to know the community, you know, see the community. Like we had just renovated this location and it's absolutely stunning, even the skilled nursing unit. So it's very appealing. You know, it's a 5-star, you know, there's so many different things that, you know, we're able to highlight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know, like you said, doing that with everybody going forward, that's a great point. So thank you.
Yeah, I've sent you the link to the page that we have for it, and really these days, like not knowing that stuff about them isn't really, how do I say this? Like you can get that information. So what we do, we get that information. Other platforms can get that information. There's like a limitation of the platform which you used.
Right.
So you can read, like we did the webinar on it, you can rewatch what the director of the hospital said about it, and let me know if you want to talk about it more. I'm aware there's other people on the call. If they want to say something, like feel free, everybody, I can unmute you. But Cara, yeah, I'd love to follow up with you after you've had a read of that.
All right. Thanks so much, Adam. We'll have
Good
a
to speak
great
to you.
rest
See
of
ya.
the day.
Bye.
Take care.
Anybody else here, or I just imagine some people just walk away from the computer. Oh, hi, Claudia.
Hi, I'm just listening in as I'm, you know, kind of working a little bit. Just wanted to hear what everybody else had to say. But I have been using Indeed for probably maybe 7 years. And what I have noticed is that there's a very slow applicant response with nurses, but other types of healthcare jobs, you know, we get applicants credentialing or admins or billers or coders, anything like that, we'll get a response. But with nurses, we really don't get a response. And I'm wondering, is that just the norm, or are you guys, or is Indeed really getting a lot of nurse applicants? Because we don't. And we do some sponsorship, but we tend to not sponsor the nurse roles as much as we would sponsor like an admin role that's urgent, because we will definitely get applicants for that. But we, I've put $300 behind a nurse ad and have gotten crickets. So I'm just curious as to what we might be doing wrong, or is this just a norm? Like, do they look at the job and then maybe just skip, you know, applying through Indeed and go directly to the website? I don't know. I mean, what can you tell me?
Let me look at your jobs. I'm gonna try and find them.
Bustica.
I mean, what is it? I would say 300 is you got crickets. Okay. I mean, yeah, we get nurses for like between $30 to $70 on Indeed at the moment. So I know that's quite a big range. Pardon?
Yeah, is that per job posting, per week, per day?
That's like cost per applicant.
Oh, per applicant.
Yeah. So
and could you break it down like daily? So let's say you were posting, what's your most recent posting? Is it like a ICU nurse, a med surg nurse? What type of nurse, and how much did you put behind it for that day?
Okay, so I'm looking at one. So we did $10 a day. It's a home care nurse in Asheville. Got 4 candidates for $80. So let me look at a hospital one. really is very variable on the geography, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the
Yeah.
hospitals are remote. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like huge. Like sometimes you just have to try it. Well, what we do whenever we get a new client is we put their ads up everywhere, and then wherever it works, we just put more money there. And if it doesn't work in one location, we stop. So generally, our Indeed ads work best whenever we just launch them, and then they go down like this. Not what should I search to see one of your jobs if you're happy for me to do that?
Oh yeah, so we're Vestica Inc. We actually don't have our profile made or created yet. I just saw that yesterday. So yeah.
Vestica Inc. Okay. Okay. Oh, I found something cool.
We have plenty of jobs. It's just
Yeah.
Did you find us?
I can see the company profile, but I can't see like the active jobs.
Okay, let me send you the jobs here.
Oh yeah, cool. Because I'm just thinking like, is there a way that you've written them that's different to what we do? Let me see. Yeah. Because whenever I'm talking about writing the ad as an ad, we would create something like this that isn't a job description. It's an ad. It's a very different thing.
Yes, and that was actually brought up to me yesterday because we were doing some research and we noticed that some people don't, they don't put the job, you know, not so much the requirements, but the job duties, because they say, well, an ICU nurse knows what she does. Does she really need you to write out, you know, we'll work on an EMR or, you know, so have you seen more success by just doing more of a sale of your agency versus a full, you know, description with duties?
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta sell them on their life after they've taken the job on. So I think the reason you're doing that is because like everyone else does it. There's no data which shows if you put the job description as the job ad that it gets better results. I think you have to think that this is the replacement of the newspaper. So whenever Coca-Cola advertise in the newspaper, they don't put the ingredients of the Coke. They put the bottle. They have their little happy clappy song on the TV, and it's about how Coke makes you feel with your friends. It's not about the sugar that rots your teeth. It's about how you actually feel once you've drunk it. And like you need to distinguish between the job ad and then the description.
Okay.
So yeah, I know you're in like a staffing agency, like we are. So like it'd be good to do that across your sites. I'll link you to a good blog on the topic.
Okay, awesome. And what is your company name? Is it your agency name, I should say?
Yeah, it's called Applichat Healthcare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we just do nursing positions. Yeah, so shall we? Yeah, so this is the cath lab thing.
Yeah.
Let me just
Very
get our
generic, right? It's very generic. It's very like, these are the 4 qualifications. This is what the job is. Apply here. It doesn't really give a whole lot.
Well, are you uploading this manually or through like a stream?
So no, we have somebody that's actually posting them direct on Indeed.
Yeah.
But he's just
Like-
literally copying our ATS posting. And that's another thing. Do you change your posting from platform to platform, or are you using the same posting for every platform? Other than Facebook, of course, because you know, that's a whole different type of posting, but
Yeah, I think it needs to vary depending on why they're on the platform. Like, they come to Indeed because they're actively looking for a job. If they're on Facebook, they're not actively looking for jobs. So you need to have different messaging.
yeah.
I'm just gonna look at the screen share of the two. So Cath Lab local contract. A facility in Austin is looking for Cath Lab too. Yeah, so let me show you. So yeah, you just got to sort of cheat the system and not put a job description in this description. You should put an ad in the description. So this is the one that we got like 4 nurses from. And yeah, like start with the pain points, then some of those benefits, and then the reasons. Like this, it's obviously not created by like someone who's a copywriter. It's just like copy and paste that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah. Are you doing a lot of sourcing on Facebook as well?
We do them all.
Oh,
We
cool,
try to
nice.
cover- we try to cover every platform. Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Yeah. And are you like a national agency or
No, we're
for
actually in San
nursing?
Antonio.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
okay, okay.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. That's really helpful. I think that's one of the things I think we just need to master is our job descriptions and getting some better content out there. So I appreciate your help.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think you need to like follow through with it. That's like the most important part. So it's pretty obvious what you need to do, but it's making sure that people actually do it. It's the tricky part.
Yeah. All righty.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Cheers.
Have a good
And
day.
thanks for coming. Talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks so much.
Bye. Thanks for coming, James, as well. I think you put in the chat something, but I'm also not sure if you're actually here. We're gonna end this anyway. I'll see you later. Oh, he's chatting in LinkedIn. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I think he must have, maybe that was a ghost, like, or he forgot to log out or something. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's been chatting with me. So.
Oh
my God.